Lesley Logan. What a great conversation with Lesley. So inspiring. So she was in Los Angeles for a while at a high-end jewelry store and, kind of feeling it's not really fulfilling everything that she wanted, gets talked into going to a Pilates class, kind of makes fun of it a little bit, changes her life completely. She turns into a trainer and she's training all these classes, ends up bringing it into a whole line of business, moves out of the city to Nevada. Now she's got this great business that helps people in Pilates, helps people get in shape, work out, exercise. But her whole shift from her love and teaching of Pilates to being a CEO, being an entrepreneur, it's a wonderful pivot. Many of us, we start a business doing things that we love, and then as it gets more successful, we find other things that we like, and it actually pulls away from that. But we open the conversation. She has a great podcast, and she has something called Fuck Yeah Friday. I think that really says it all. But she celebrates. We talk about celebration and goals. We have a great conversation on delegation and just running a business and what it takes. She works with her husband. Life-work balance is always an issue with small businesses and even more with your spouse or your partner. But it's a wonderful conversation with Lesley Logan, just real inspiring. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because I was working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How'd I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others.
Very excited to speak to you, Lesley Logan. And of course, we're recording on a Friday. So I have to ask, what's Fuck Yeah Friday?
Oh my gosh. Hey, thanks for looking that up. It is, okay, I work for myself and you probably do the same thing. So the week is long. The week is just so long. And by the time you get to Friday, sometimes you've forgotten to celebrate what did happen. And so Fuck Yeah Friday is more about okay, what fucking did happen? What's the good stuff? And just taking a moment to celebrate, which sometimes is celebrating oh, I didn't get too distracted this week. Or sometimes it is a huge accomplishment. I have a wins channel in every community that I start, including our company, and we celebrate wins. And oftentimes, people will celebrate the completion of a product and of a project or a product. And I'm like, fuck yeah, we actually hit a deadline today, guys. Way to go. Way to go. Let's acknowledge that, that's what it's all about.
You still there?
I'm still here. Yeah.
Oh, that was weird. Kind of blinked. Yeah, we don't celebrate. In business, celebration does not happen enough. I have a lot of peers and, they reach a goal and then they just kind of create the next one. And it's not good. It's not healthy. You've got to celebrate it. It could be as small as a high five. It could be as big as, I don't know, going on a trip or something. But it's important to kind of sit back and recognize and celebrate.
Yes, I agree. Because I agree that those of us who have aspirations, it's hard to have, we kind of have a mountain with no peak, but we have to set up camp sometimes. To set up camp, you got to take in the view. I annoy my husband every full moon. Last night we left the house on the way to the gym and I'm like, look at the moon. Yeah. Everyone needs to stop and look at the moon. They're trying to get in the car. We're late. I'm like, just take a second and take a look at the moon. I find we have to just do that. Otherwise you lose days.
You do.
And you also can lose track of where you're going.
Yeah, the moon is so cool last night, by the way. And I did take just a moment and my, people around me got annoyed that I kind of paused the conversation. But let's just look up at the moon and see what's happening. Not forget that there's so much bigger things around us.
Yeah, there really are. Last night we had a cloud over it, so you could see it. But the cloud was like a haze. And I was like, okay, come on. This is what movies are made of. So, that's what and I hope that people end up having a fuck yeah Thursday or whatever it is. But like, to me, I think in the world where everything is a little bit more uncertain, more chaotic, there needs to be a day where you just take a moment and go, fuck yeah, it's Friday. Here's what I did. Take stock, take an inventory, share it with a friend. Like, it would be really cool if people just had it and where they just text each other FYF and did that. And I had people DM me today, their FYFs, and I'm like, yes, this is what I want every Friday. I want people's wins in my DMs.
And it should be part of the goal process. Once this goal is achieved, what are we going to do to celebrate?
Yes, it should. Absolutely. What do you do to celebrate?
Depends on what it is, but I try to make time to soak it in a little bit. It really depends on how small and big it could be. Like I said, it could be as easy as a high five or a text, like you said. But then it could, if it's something major, let's go somewhere. Let's make a meal. Let's really soak this in. Your phrase, Lesley, I've always heard "fake it till you make it," but your twist on it is much, much better. Be it until you see it.
Yeah. Doesn't that sound more fun?
Definitely. And
It
more
sounds more
reflective.
authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also doesn't sound like you're trying to be something you're not. What it is instead of saying, when I achieve X, then I will feel. Like, that's what people say all the time. Or they feel like they don't belong in a space. Okay, so then let's spin that. What if you did belong? What if you did belong? How would you act? How do people who belong in this space act? How, if you achieve X goal, how would you act? So then you take that information and then you actually put it into today's action. So this came about years ago, around 2016. I was leaving. I was running 9 studios for a high-end fitness company. I was their lead teacher trainer. So I had this great salary from them. And then I had a private Pilates business. And in my private Pilates business, was getting more popular to travel, to teach workshops. I wanted to lead retreats, and I was coaching and consulting for other studios. So I had this big plan, but I had to make a leap. I'd make a leap from a salaried job where half of my income was coming from salary and in health insurance to fully on my own. And I knew what math I had to do. I did that. So here I was walking down the street, trying to listen to a podcast about running a business because I'm now a CEO of my own company. I don't have a paycheck that's coming in. And I was starting to go, I'm not even a CEO. I don't even know what a CEO does. My highest level of job was managing. And I hate that. I'm not very good at it. So how would and I was just like, and then I had this idea, well, what if I did know? What if I actually did know how to run a company? What would I do? When would I get up? When does a person who runs a company have lunch? And I just started making decisions around that because instead of being like a victim of circumstances and a lot of I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't know if I'm doing this right. It's well, what if I had to know? And what if I did know? And what would I do then? And I changed my entire way I worked. I actually didn't work through lunch because if I actually was running a successful company, I would have time for lunch. People who run successful companies go to lunch. They go to fancy lunches. So I really wanted to take that in. And what ended up happening is my business grew even more. I had more time for myself and I had a lot more confidence, even though I had no idea what I was doing or what it would turn into.
We all have that. We all have that kind of moment where we try to get advice from others, but we just have to kind of figure it out. And so your story, Lesley, so you're in Los Angeles, you're at a high-end jewelry store selling, this, high-end clientele and, you kind of running its course. And then somebody talked you into Pilates and you kind of made fun of it. You were skeptical, but it just really changed your life.
I'm obsessed with you. Thanks for learning about me. Yes, that's exactly what happened. I was feeling really alone. I think a lot of people I'm sure you've had times where you just kind of feel like you're in your life and it's not bad. It's not great. And something just wasn't right. And I was actually feeling quite alone. I was running this beautiful jewelry store and I loved that. I thought I was so cool. It was it was like all the celebrities were wearing the stuff that I sold. And, and I had so much opportunity of connecting with people and there was opportunity for me to run the company and grow into it. It was a family owned company, but I could be the next adopted daughter. And they sent me to other stores. And so I really thought I had potential. But I had graduated from college and all of my friends had moved. So here I was in a town that I didn't grow up in. I went to college in, So I had a lot of like experiences but I had no friends. And this girl I worked with invited me to a Pilates class and I did make fun of it. I thought it was BS. I thought there's no way this infomercial workout can do anything for you. But I wanted a friend, so that's why I went. And I fell in love with how I felt in that moment in my body doing this practice. And the more I did it, what happened is like a year later at a class, I was like, I don't think I want to live here anymore. I had this thought because when you do Pilates, you have this mind body connection. And I was like, where did that thought come from? I've never wanted to not live near the beach. I live near the beach. Like why would I think that? And I got to work that day and a girl who had my exact same job at the store in Santa Monica, so at the beach, she's like, hey girl, I just want to let you know, I love you, but I put my 2-week notice in today. And I was like, do you think I can transfer to your job? And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. We're celebrating you. I'm so excited for you. But do you think that I can have it? And so I was like, and she was like, oh, okay. So I put in for it and I got the transfer. And that is in LA, I started going to Pilates there. And that's when someone said, you should teach this. And I think that's a really cool thing. I think a lot of us have people who suggest things, and sometimes people's suggestions are shit. Like, don't listen to people because sometimes they're really projections. But I think sometimes there's little guides in our life, and this person would get nothing from me being a teacher. You know, like, yes, I would teach at her studio and that would benefit her, but like also I could just not teach at her studio. And so I think I listened to that, and thank God I did, because I would have lost my retail job a couple of years later.
And what was it about Pilates, Lesley? Tell me, what was that experience?
Yeah, so I am very lucky that the Pilates I fell into and the Pilates that I got to learn how to teach is from what Joseph Pilates created. So Pilates was designed by a dude, 4 men. Sorry, ladies listening. No one thought we should work out in the 1920s. They didn't even let us run a marathon until the 80s. So like, you know, in my lifetime, like because they thought our uterus would fall out. They are just so much just not studying life. Anyways, so he designed Pilates for men. And so I got to study his work and do his stuff. And what I love about doing Pilates the way he intended is that it is a mind body practice. And so for a lot of us, it's so hard to like shut the whirlwind off in your brain.
Yeah.
Like, and I love working out. Like, I was already an athlete. I was a runner. I had a training certification. I worked out on lifted weights. But the thing about running and the thing about lifting weights and a lot of other things, your mind can wander about everything else while you're lifting the weights. It can. Like, should it? No. Can you do something else? Yes. Can you get exertion out? Absolutely. But you can also have you can also think about, okay, after I leave here, I got to go to the grocery store. So I loved that in the Pilates practice, if I was doing it actually correctly, not doing the choreography, but actually doing it, I had to think about what was moving from where. And I actually had to get to know my body. And that was something I never experienced before. That was something I never understood before. And the more I did it, the more I got to know more about myself. Oh, I'm really tired today. Oh, no wonder I'm having a hard time with these projects. I'm just I was exhausted in Pilates. I'm still exhausted. Like, I'm just, so I started to go, well, what if I listen to that? I'm tired today. So do I need to do these 7 other things on my list, or can I move some of them to tomorrow? Oh, I'm really energized today. And someone's like, hey, can you help me? Yes, I can. I know I can. I actually know myself. So for me, Pilates was a practice to know myself and what I'm capable of that day, a practice where I can compare myself to myself as opposed to other people. And the more I do it, and here we are, you know, I did that in 2005. So we're almost 20 years in, and I am still curious. I'm still learning. I'm stronger today than I was when I was, 20 years ago when I was much younger. And I think like I'm obsessed with like, I can keep learning about myself doing this, which there's not a lot of things. Sometimes you get to the peak and you're like, okay, well I've gone as far as I can go.
Is part of the attraction that your cell phone's turned off and you're off the grid?
Yeah, it should be turned off and you're off the grid. I think that's true. I think you can do that with a lot of workout regimens, but yes, I think that's it. I also think like there are moves in Pilates that you are very playful. They're very fun. Like, let's be honest. How fun are squats and lunges and push-ups?
Right.
Like, they're not fun. They're not fun. Do not ask me to do a burpee. There's nothing about that's like, yes, I did 10 burpees today. Like, I don't even want to FYF that. Like, that's like not even fun, right? But there are moves in Pilates that are very playful. They're very animalistic. They're very primal. And I can
Huh.
do cartwheels off of Pilates equipment. I could do headstands on them. I could do all these things that, like, as an adult in life, we don't get to do. They're quite unserious and there's not opportunities for it. So I think that part of the attraction is like I get to challenge my body and surprise myself in ways that my regular life will never offer those
Hmm.
opportunities.
Has technology or specifically AI moved Pilates in a different direction?
I think technology really has. I hope AI never does. It would be a terrible
Uh,
teacher because there's the ideal version of the exercise and then there's your body doing the exercise. And I do wonder, like my team has taken 10 million of my words for our coaching for Pilates business and made a bot.
wow.
And I trust that bot on the business stuff because 10 million words
Hmm.
of mine for the business, but 10 million of my teaching words, I think it could sound like a word salad. Like I think it could because sometimes the way I'm teaching exercises for a larger body and sometimes I'm teaching exercises for an NFL player and so
Interesting.
there's going to be differences in how that sounds. So I hope it doesn't, but what technology has done is allowed accessibility of Pilates. You
Mm.
know, Pilates has been around. He died in the 60s. His client created a studio and they had it in New York and then eventually these teachers traveled the world. But before websites, you just kind of heard about it through random
Mm.
people. Then
Mm.
there was websites and kind of it came out, but people didn't even know what it was because until 2001, you couldn't even say that what you did was to Pilates because there
Hmm.
was someone who was trying to serve cease and desist letters. So
Wow.
so only in the last 24 years have people been able to say that they teach Pilates, right? And so then because of websites and because of accessibility that way, people could find studios. But now with technology, with having apps, like you can take Pilates on an app. You don't have to actually go to a physical studio. You don't have to. And I think that that is great because while I love the equipment, I think the Pilates equipment is exceptional. I do think accessibility to Pilates is most important because
Mm.
you can do the mat work on, like I could do the mat work between this table and this wall.
Wow.
I don't have to have a lot of space. I can do it in a hotel room. And I think that's where technology has really helped with Pilates having accessibility.
So Leslie, you move out of the great city of Los Angeles. You go
I did.
to Las Vegas, and I understand your biggest miss is this $30 drink that was in Los Angeles that you can't have anymore.
Yes. Oh my gosh. But don't worry. Don't worry, folks.
Uh-oh.
I found a place, 20
Huh.
minute drive. 20 and here's the best part, 20 minutes away, there's two places that can sell me a 20 to $30 smoothie. And so I don't always have the time to go pay for it, wait for that thing to be made by hand, they're like grinding the gold and then drive it back, but I have access.
Mm. And what's in this smoothie that makes it that price? Is it?
Okay, so okay, if you know LA, there's a specific place called Erewhon, which is just nowhere backwards. And I wouldn't actually do a lot of my grocery shopping there, but I did love their prepared food section. It actually was quite affordable for like a full meal with like a protein and two sides. It was not bad for LA, but they had these smoothies and it's like it's got like lion's mane and ashwagandha and
Huh.
dragon's blood. I don't know. Like there's also just weird names. Spirulina. Could I have made this $30 smoothie at home for less? Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But also that particular place did pay, like they're promoted that they paid living wages and they
Right.
had health insurance and all these
Right.
things. So I
Right.
think that
Right.
part of the $30 smoothie is that someone was getting paid $30 to
Yes.
make it.
Yes. 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 Part of that. Yes. Yeah. Boy, putting lion's mane in a drink. I didn't even consider that. That's something. Yeah, I guess they could do that, Ashwan. Yeah, these supplements could
Okay,
put in there.
Joe, what is so cool about smoothies at home that you can do is like anything that you don't really want to eat, you can shove into a smoothie. It's kind of like
Yeah.
soup or a salad, right?
Yeah.
So you can shove frozen spinach, you can put your creatine, you can put all those different powders that don't have flavors, just put them in there and then you've had it. And like I really pride myself in the smoothies I make at home. They're never as good as because I think they put sugar in there and I don't. But
Right.
I can put in all these things that would make it difficult if I was trying to eat them all the time. So that's why I love that smoothie. And I will be in
Mm.
LA starting on Sunday and absolutely every day.
Indulge. Yes. So Leslie, you have to make this huge pivot now. You love Pilates, you love to take it, you love to teach it, but now you're becoming a CEO And,
Mm.
does it, I assume it pulls you away from what you love to do because you have to take on this other role. How do you combine the two? How do you make that separation if so?
Yeah, Joe, that is a really great question. I really struggled. So first of all, I struggled because I wanted to be the person doing all the things, but I also
Right.
wanted to teach. And also at that time, I had all these great ideas, but really the consistent income was in teaching. So for me to not teach would have actually, so it was a definite struggle. It's like, how do I run a company, but also the current money coming in consistently is teaching. So also I hired an assistant was the first thing I did, and I had her take on. I could only afford her for 5 hours a week, as I was like, I think I can commit to this without having to fire you. So let's do that. And so she took on work that didn't require my face or my voice and really wasn't necessarily bringing money in, but it needed to get done.
Mm.
And when she did that, I took on another client. So 1 hour of teaching paid for 5 hours of labor of her. And so I got 4 hours of my life back. And then I used those
Hmm.
4 hours to really work on products and projects that could bring in income outside of my teaching. And then as that started to happen, I took that money and instead of like stop to not teach, I actually hired more. And I just kept hiring. So I got to a place, and this is
Hmm.
so it was 2016. In 2018, I opened up my own Pilates studio. I increased her hours. I had a producer and I had a customer service person. So I'm still teaching the same amount,
Wow.
but I hired more people to do more work that didn't need me. I don't need to be the person who schedules a newsletter. I can write it. It needs to be my voice, but I don't need I don't have to schedule it. I don't have to format it. I don't have to know how to do that. I can film the classes, but I don't have to be the one who edits and uploads and puts the artwork together. So I really just kept investing in team. In 2019, my husband sold his businesses and came on full time with me.
Wow.
And what we and he was running ops at that point. So he was just running the whole operations team. And our goal was in 2020 was for me to reduce my teaching down to about 10 hours a week. So from 22 to 10
Wow.
and go full in on all of the other stuff that we had. Now, obviously, we all know what happened in 2020. So guess what? I got what I wanted, Joe. I
Right.
didn't get to teach 22 hours
Yeah.
a week anymore. But we actually ended up having to completely reformat how we made money on all scales. And that was actually really important. It wasn't that our online business actually grew. Everyone told me, I had so many text messages when lockdown happened, you're going to grow so much. Everyone's going to be at home and need your classes. People were doing free stuff online.
Hmm.
They were not investing in paying for this stuff. And so I actually did take a hit there in the beginning. But because I had all the time to focus on the business, we were able to redesign roles, redesign the mission and the visions, and actually pivot in a much faster way than had that not happened. And so, yes, it was very scary for a long time. But what we ended up doing is my husband took over the CEO role and I took over chief visionary officer.
Ah.
Person. I am the forward facing person. I am the one meeting with our members. I love that. But to be honest, to answer your original question, I do spend my time more with our members, not necessarily teaching them.
Hmm.
So film a lot of content for teaching. When I do in-person events like our tours and our retreats, I get to teach them. But on a weekly basis, I don't teach a lot of people one-on-one anymore,
Hmm.
2 or 3, because my role in the business is connecting with our members, talking with them, understanding what's going on, what are they needing, and how can we make things better, as opposed to actually teaching the individuals.
I work with a lot of small businesses, and delegation does not come naturally, Leslie. It seems that you were able to master that. Any advice?
Yeah, I don't know that I've mastered it, but I think you have to constantly remind yourself,
Hmm.
done is better than perfect.
Done is
And
better than perfect.
done is better than perfect. It really, really is. And you also do need to take the time to train people before you fully offload the thing. And so a lot of times, small business people, I'm sure you know this, Joe, wait too long. Now
Yeah.
they're too busy, they're too overwhelmed to hire because they don't have the time to fully train people. So they sort of train them and then they wonder why it didn't get done the way that they wanted. Well, actually, when you hire someone, you have to spend 80% of your time training them on the thing that they're going to take over.
Mm.
And then you spend 70% and 60%. And at 50%, you should be able to let them go and then check back in. But people do need to, you have to have systems for that they can actually follow. And so one of the things that's really cool about technology today is you can actually record everything that you do while you do it before you delegate it off. So, you know, the systems that I had in place when my assistant was coming on, I had to walk her through all of them by
Mm.
hand because that was back in 2016. But when she went on maternity leave, she recorded and loomed everything that was a responsibility of hers. All of it was loomed. And so then when my new assistant came on, I hired her after my old assistant had left. I couldn't find someone right away. I said, okay, my old assistant's going to train you. Here are all the loom videos. So your job is to watch all of them. There's a way to practice every single thing without fucking it up. And you're going to do that. And you're going to let us know where you got stuck. And if at some point you think you have a faster way of doing the exact same thing, you can present that to me. But first you got to do it her way. And today we still have all those videos. Everything still gets done pretty much the same way if we still do the thing the way that she did it. And so it's really important, I think, to have a system that makes it easier to delegate. And then also you have to have a vision. And why does what this thing is that you're delegating off, how does it apply to the vision? How does
Mm.
it go with the goal? Because if people don't know, then they'll just do it, sometimes not even nefariously the way it can get done. And that doesn't necessarily mean it will get done in a way that aligns with your vision, but they didn't know. So you have to
Mm.
say, the reason why we send weekly emails is because it allows us to touch base with our audience and stay top of mind. And they have to be consistent because one of our values is consistent communication. And we tell
Mm.
people that we can help hold them accountable to what their goals are. We are reliable. If we miss a newsletter, we are actually ticking a box in the unreliability area. We are not consistent. So that is why emails must go out consistently. And if we are ever going to miss a date, we need to update another email and actually acknowledge, here's why it didn't go out. Because we need to show them that they can rely on us, that we are communicative and transparent. And so when you take something as simple as a newsletter and you apply it to the bigger company's vision and values, then people don't go, you know what? The newsletter can't go out till 8. It's going to be okay. No, they see it as a serious thing. So I think that's where delegation comes in, knowing what your mission, vision, values are,
Mm.
understanding that it's going to take a lot of your time to teach them how to do it, and then allow it to get done. And if you think that it was done imperfectly to what you wanted, you need to actually be specific. Okay, here's what I like that you did. Here's what I didn't like. Do you need us to go over this? Can you explain to me why this happened? There's
Mm.
often a bigger story to it, and it can be worked through. I had a great coach remind me, your business is not as precious as you think it is.
Yeah.
And so some mistakes are not that they're not going to be a big deal. So if you can actually just go, okay, this is an interesting thing. This is a way for me to learn as the owner. We did not have a clear enough system, or there was something wrong here, or I didn't do
Mm.
this.
Mm.
Now, if someone continues to be a dick about it, of course you have to let them go. But I think the other the thing that a tool that I was able to use, and my friend and amazing coach Kareem Walsh taught me, is a delegation thing. And you actually take everything you're responsible for. You take the whole list of what you're responsible for in your life, in your business, everything, and then you rate it on a scale of how much joy it gives you or drains you. So 10 out of 10, the most joy. You could do it you just have the best time. You'll do it on a worst day of your life. You love
Mm.
it so much. It gives you so much energy. A 1, it is the worst. It sucks the joy out of you. It
Mm.
sucks energy out of you. It is the worst thing to do. And you rate everything 1 to 10. And then you go through and you circle what doesn't require your face or your voice. And when you do that, you can see what's 5 or below. Then you know what you need to be delegating off. Because I absolutely love certain things about my business that other people could do, but they
Mm.
bring me joy. And it would actually take the joy away. I love writing our newsletters. Our team has been like, oh, we can do X, Y, and Z with the newsletters. We can use this tool to write them. Da 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 da. We can hire someone. You could just review it. And I'm like, I fucking love writing the
Mm.
newsletters. I love
Mm.
it. It doesn't even take me that much time. It would take me more time to edit the thing because I'd be pissed about it. So like, you're not going to take things off your plate that bring you joy, even if they don't require your face or your voice. But we can take those things up. That's what you did need to delegate off. And I think what happens is a lot of people delegate stuff off that they actually liked, and
Mm.
then they leave themselves with stuff they don't. And so I just find that that's another way of figuring out delegation for your business and for your life. And the best advice I can give is the first thing you delegate off is your housework or anything in your
Mm.
personal life. Because our personal life can be so distracting from our business. And it is a great way to procrastinate on our business as well. And so I have had a housekeeper since 2015.
Wow.
I've had one, they're a weekly housekeeper, and I could barely afford them when I hired them, but I was like, this house will never be clean if it's up to me.
Mm.
So hire someone for your personal hire. Also with technology, you can have all your groceries automated, delivered, dropped
Yeah.
in your garage now.
Yes.
Like there's so many things. So I would say like, what can your personal life, can you delegate off first so that you give your energy to your business, and then delegate off what doesn't require your face or your voice and drains you. And that, I promise you, you will go further faster.
Yeah, well said. The delegation thing, I still have some clients that I work with, they still insist on ordering the pizza. I love what you said, done is better than perfect. And sometimes the 80-20 rule, if somebody can get it done 80% just as well as you can. Some of them obsess over how they do it, instead of just
Mm-hmm.
kind of the end goal. But I heard you say that you battle with perfectionism. So I mean that directly conflicts with delegation. And
It does.
but you seem to handle it okay.
Yeah, I don't handle I think internally I have like lots of conversations with myself.
Mm,
um, I struggle with perfectionism with myself, but not with other people.
I see.
So um I think part of my practice of recovering from perfectionism is welcoming and understanding imperfection in others and what they're doing, and really just trying to understand like what happened here. So it's not easy when there's a mistake that happens. When you delegate something, you want to get mad or frustrated, or, especially when it's your business, it can feel personal because this is
Mm,
like, I'm paying you money, right? But I really have tried in the last several years, and I'm not perfect as going, okay, can someone help run me up to like, how did this happen? How come this didn't go out? Or why didn't this get said? Then I hear what happened and I go, okay, so this happened because there's something, an outlier happened altogether. And when this outlier happened, we didn't have a system for it. So in the delegation, they didn't do anything necessarily wrong because I didn't teach them how to handle this outlier in situation. So how can we set up a system now? If this ever happens again, this is what we do. And also, in general, always, we need to do X, Y, and Z.
mm,
So trying to not hold my team to a perfectionist standard because I struggle with it. And
mm,
instead, using my business, using my team as a way for me to be a better person and to challenge myself and to understand, be more understanding. And I'm definitely not perfect at this. If my sleep is shit, it's definitely not a good idea for me to go
right.
and Slack. I really have had to go just hit unread on that. Go take a break, come back, or write the thing you want to write, delete that, start again.
Mm,
But I think, we are humans and you're allowed to be in process with what you're learning. But it's, delegation in itself, you will get better when you learn from your mistakes. So
mm,
try not to be perfect at delegating. Yes, we talked about like spend 80% of your time. You know what? If all you did was spend 60%, give yourself a break,
mm,
and then, try to find a different way to get that person trained up in a way that will actually benefit you, and just be in process about, okay, I only did 60%. So maybe we have to go back to the basics. Maybe I need to do X, Y, and Z. It's going to be okay, but we can't be too hard on ourselves because that's a waste of time. And, if you're hiring people whose values align with yours and your business, who have desire to learn, you're going to get past anything. And
yeah.
I think what people do is they're trying to hire people who have this amazing skill set, but they're to have a shitty personality. I
Mm,
really like to hire people who are excited. My current assistant has never been an assistant before. So do we have to learn some things? Yeah, because my other assistants have always been assistants.
mm,
So I had a life where I would get there and I knew exactly how I was going from the airport to the hotel. And recently, the first trip she had a plan, my husband and I are in Thailand. He's like, how are we going for the hotel? And I was like, oh, I didn't teach her that. And it was
mm,
so instinctual to my past assistants. It wasn't even in the systems, right? So we had to say, hey, from now on, we need details on these logistics. And you just have to go and you have to let it go. You can't get upset about it. It wasn't her fault. It wasn't even our fault. It was just a thing. So I think, you learn and be observant. So hopefully that's a long answer to just like be nice to yourself. And your business will teach you a lot about yourself.
It'll teach you things you like and you don't like, perhaps. So you mentioned that your husband came to work. Now he's part of the organization.
Yeah, Joe, he brought me coffee while we've
Look at
been sitting
that.
here.
Oh, the best.
I
And
know.
how is that life-work balance struggle? I believe you said you didn't have any kids. I think you said that.
We have
But
no kids.
no kids. So I mean, how do you not take work home?
Well, we work at home, so guess
Oh
what?
my goodness. So I'm in home in quotes, like,
Yeah.
are you in one room and you only discuss it then? I mean, do you separate? I know somebody who lights a candle, and when the candle's on, they're working, and when they turn it off, it's not. So the other person
I
knows.
love that for them.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would have to remember to light that fucking candle. And worse, to put it out.
Right, exactly.
So,
No Wendy's in that. Yeah.
So we do take it home, in that this entire house is set up to work. It's
Wow.
5 bedrooms and 4 of them are used for the business. But what we learned the hard way in 2020, and I think a lot of people did. In 2020, because there was so much uncertainty, because everything was changing, because a lot of us had to shift and pivot, fucking word pivot and pivot again. You did work longer than you wanted, and you had no distractions because there was nowhere to go to be distracted by. And so bad habits could be created. About 4 months into living here, we tried to share an office and was like, this is where work will be. That didn't even last 3 days before. He's on too many calls. It's impossible.
Right.
So we got our own separate offices, and then what we had to do is go, okay, he doesn't do work in the morning. So I'm not allowed to, like, as soon as he wakes up, approach him with 17 problems unless it's literally like the business is on fire.
Sure.
Right. So there's that. And then also he is not allowed to talk to me about work after we come from the gym.
Nice.
So we go to the gym at night, which means from dinner on, there's no work. So what podcasts we listen to, they cannot be work related. We've tried doing that. We tried listening to this one Money Book, and I was like, this has to be a Saturday morning thing for us because because it would turn into work. So we have non-work zones. If an idea comes up, we acknowledge it and go, okay, our next meeting is on Tuesday at noon, put it in the notes. So we really try. And then we have 2 lunch meetings a week together where we can actually, like, these meetings, we can talk about work. Otherwise, we don't talk about work at lunch. We just have lunch.
Wow.
And so it took boundaries, and then they're not perfect. They blend in because you get excited and you're celebrating. It's like, so we try to allow the celebrations to happen. And we try, if someone is talking about something that's non-urgent, not important, hey, you know what? In 30 minutes, you can have my attention. So can you bring that to me in 30 minutes? So we really tried that. That's helpful. Weekends, in the last 2 years, we've been really trying to protect those. If there's not a work event happening on the weekend, we try to, like, clean a shed or, like, go be normal people. Let's go to a farmer's market. You don't have to buy anything. Like, just go and do it.
Yes.
So we try to do that a lot. And then the other thing I think is really helpful is most of our friends own their own businesses, and that can go bad. Like, that can be bad because all you could do is talk about work. But what we really try to do is, like, have regular meetups with them, which forces us all to get out of the house and not work. And if work comes up, it's mostly like in helping each other out. But it isn't easy, and you have to have boundaries. But I actually think that's for people who don't work for themselves too. People who can take their work home need to have boundaries. People, who both have paychecks need to, like, have boundaries with their work. So I think we all need to learn how to have good boundaries, and then you just have to understand how each person works. And Brad works late at night. I work early in the morning. So we have to honor what's going on there.
It's a good system, though. At least I work early. As I get older, I'm most awake in the morning. But it's a good system. At least you're kind of AM, PM. But I guess it continues to improve. You do such a great job, Lesley, on the podcast. You're able to. You've done over 500 of them. I mean, you love doing it. It's evident.
I love doing. Don't you love it though? Like, don't you meet random weird people and you're like, wow, you made that work? That's cool.
Yeah, but you're really good at monologue as well. I mean, you could just here's FYF, or fuck it Friday, or fuck yeah Friday, excuse me, and
Mhm.
this is what we're going to talk about. And I'm not good at that. I just like asking questions, and I'm generally curious. But you're able to carry it on. It's wonderful.
Joe, the world needs everybody. So we all
Yeah,
need good interviewers, and you have really great questions, and also you're a really good researcher. So
yeah.
thank you for this space, because this is an even more pleasant conversation because of all that. The monologues. I went to school for communications, so I
Mm.
did pay $80,000 for a degree, and I guess it's paying off. I um I think I spend a lot of time in my own head. I have morning walks that are an hour long, and I almost have a monologue with myself. And when I'm having that with myself, I'm like, well, then someone else probably wants to hear this.
Hmm.
And I think vulnerability is I think it's a word that's thrown out a lot, and I don't think as many people are as vulnerable as they think. I think some people use vulnerability to push people away, and other
Mm.
people, we all know these people who like too much, too soon, too fast. um, and I think something that, in part of my struggling with perfectionism, something that I've been trying to do more is those monologues, is sharing what's on my mind, what's going on. And you can practice that, everyone. Like, I do stories in the morning and I just go, okay, good morning. I had the shittiest sleep last night, but here's what I'm doing about it. Here's what you can do about it. Here's what can learn about that. Okay, have a good day. And I did these practices and I was like, no one's watching this. No one cares. And when I missed a day, people are like, hey, are you okay?
Huh.
And I'm like, yeah, totally fine. I got lost in my own thoughts and I didn't have time. And they're like, oh, okay, we missed the thing that you post. And so I think it's important. You don't have to be a monologue person or a good questions person. Something that you do naturally all the time, people are paying attention to, and they will miss when you stop. And you can use that as a gift to this world. So my podcast has been really fun. Um, I have the FYF episodes as a place where I could share people's wins and share mine. And I've recently decided, and unfortunately, it probably won't happen until the new year, but I'm changing the format of that day. I'm still going to share people's wins. I'm sure going to probably share one of mine, but I also want to share stories of people who are doing really hard things that I
Hmm.
might not have a chance to interview, or it might take me a long time to get them an interview in, and they might not even know I exist or even talk about them. But I want to. So I've been finding these inspirational stories online and just saving them. And I want to share just a clip of that for people. And so the monologue will be about that and we will evolve. And I'm excited for that.
Hmm.
And I don't know, the interview day is really fun for me because I never know what's going to happen. Um, and then my husband and I talk about the person I interviewed, and that's always hilarious.
Wow.
I think some stuff we don't put on the air because we're like, oh, why did they say that? What did this mean? I don't want to embarrass anyone because I actually hate that. I think that would make both of us would feel cringe about that. So we kind of talk about it and we get ourselves to a place where okay, I love this, you love that, and we can highlight the person in an amazing way. Because I think that's important. I think everyone deserves to be highlighted in a way that really shows them off, and hopefully the guests listen and they can hear that because they might need to.
Hmm.
But it's been really a lot of fun, and I did not know that I'd be at this many episodes as quickly as we are. We just found out we're in the top 1.5% of podcasts, which is also huge, because I thought I just had a few listeners. So
Hmm.
I don't know, it's been a lot of fun.
Very, very cool. Lesley, has there been anything in the last month or so that you've changed your mind on?
Mm. Yes. Yeah, I have. So I spent a couple of years going, I don't want to travel too much anymore.
Hmm.
And I was really adamant last year, this year, let's just reduce the travel. And I think we all do this, and things we change our mind on. The pendulum swings one way. So pre-pandemic, I traveled 150,000 miles a year.
Wow.
Insane. Then there was a pandemic, I traveled none.
Hmm.
Then we tried to find a happy medium from the last 2 years. And what I changed my mind on recently, I'm having a very busy travel season, but what I changed my mind on recently is as long as I protect weekends and have stints at home that are protected, why would I say no to other opportunities?
Hmm.
And so I still have to figure out what the system is for saying yes, because I don't want to say yes just because I've been invited. It's
Hmm.
really fun to be invited to go to cool places and people want you to go.
It's great.
But when am I going to say yes? Why am I going to say yes? And like, so it can't be an automatic, like, oh, I only do this many countries a year, or I only do this many events a year. Like,
Hmm.
that's where I was at. I was very restrictive. So I like the pendulum swung to a more restricted place. And now I've changed my mind to going, it can be more organic, I bet. I bet there's a way we can do this. I bet with a team of people who are like, hey, Lesley, that's 3 weekends in a row. Like if we can come up with something like that, then I think that we can figure out a way to have a little bit more fun and a little more surprise. So that's what I've recently changed my mind on. And I think I did that while I was in Thailand on a
Hmm.
kayak.
It came to you.
Just came to me. I was like, why am I restricting so much? This is really beautiful.
Oh, sounds wonderful. So I started my business in the 90s, Lesley. I'm a little bit older than you, and I was working way too hard. That life work balance that we talked about wasn't there, and was putting my health behind. And I found myself at 340 pounds. And doctor says to me, if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. My daughter was just born. So, I'm driving home, punching the steering wheel. It's my pie hole. What the heck have I done? It's just not me anymore. It's now this person that I'm somehow responsible for. It's been brought into the world. So I took the next 6-7 months, lost 130 pounds, and you can't look at it as a finishing line, right? You have to. It's a lifelong change. I don't know if you ever
Yeah.
struggled with weight, but these kind of temporary things are not good for you. So people hear the story and they want to, what's your secret? Like there's no secret, of course, Lesley. Discipline. That's how I lost the weight.
Yeah.
I have focus, willpower, etc. How does discipline play a role in your life, Lesley Logan?
Wow, what a story. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, you're correct. There's no secret
No,
and this is for everything.
everything. No.
Everything. Discipline is everything. Um,
Hmm.
my husband and I were actually just reflecting because we're having a really amazing year in our business while reducing a lot of our efforting.
Wow.
So we will probably make a little more than we did last year, but with like no launches. We did
Wow.
no launches, no public launches of any kind. And for those of you wondering what launches, it's like huge
Hmm.
huge pushes, huge
Hmm.
sales, huge things. So we're actually going to do more than we did last year without any of the efforting.
Wow.
And we're like, how did we get here? And I think another word for discipline is consistency.
Hmm.
We have been so consistent. And so I think a lot of people want something, they want instant gratification. That goes for people with weight loss. They want the instant gratification. Well, yeah, if you starve yourself, you'll lose weight.
Yeah.
Then you'll eat and you'll gain it back. So if you want to make a lot of money fast, there's ways of doing that. But if you want to make a lot of money for a long time, it's not the same. And so I think we all need to give ourselves permission to find something that you can be consistent with. And people tend to be all or nothing. And you have to just understand that being consistent doesn't mean it's every day, all the time. You can be consistent. Like you can go like there could be a weekly thing that you do that's consistent, a monthly thing you do that's consistent. There are things that have to be a daily thing. For example, nutrition, that's a daily consistency you need to have. But like I think discipline's really hard, but what I've done and what I know from studying habits and what I know from studying mindset is that if you try to be too big with what you're going to be consistent with, you will lose. And you will then put that in the category of I'm not good enough. It's another thing I failed at. And what we all have to do is find ways to take something small that will help us get to the goal and get consistent there. And when that becomes easier, you make it bigger.
Hmm.
So if you're someone who wants to get stronger, if you go to the gym for 2 hours, you're going to be too sore tomorrow to go. So what if you go for 15 minutes? And when 15 minutes becomes easier to show up, to do the moves, you're actually getting more done in 15 minutes. You can add 20, or you can add a different type of workout or this. Like we have to give ourselves permission. Sometimes you just have to put shoes on. Maybe just
Hmm.
put the gym shoes on. Maybe that's where you're at. And when it becomes so easy for the gym shoes on that you actually go to the car then we got to celebrate that. So the other thing in all of this is like finding ways to celebrate. And you mentioned it a few times, high fives, like simple as a high five.
Mm.
We have to have ways of rewarding ourselves. I will caution people, try not to put the reward away from the habit you're trying to build. So if the habit you're trying to build is to go to the gym every day or to work on your side hustle so that you can quit your, paycheck job. It can't be, if I work on my side hustle and I make $500, then I get to do this. No, can't be that.
Mm.
You have to, if I work on my side hustle, then I will high five my kid. I will, I get to watch the Netflix show, whatever it is. Like give
Mm.
yourself something that can be a celebration in the moment. Because if the celebration reward is too far away from the thing, you actually don't develop a habit. It has to be right after. And so find a way that lights your fire, that gets that dopamine high for you. And that's how you'll create a habit, but make it small, celebrate it. It becomes easier. You can expand it.
Yeah, well said. It goes back to celebration. It's just very important. It's interesting how we can tie discipline to that because we have to be patient. We have to reflect. I have this ongoing thesis, Lesley, that discipline is a spectrum. As I have more conversations and delve into it, about 10 elements, and those are some of the traits. What motivates you?
So motivation is very fickle. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to rely on anything with like motivation at all because it's the way BJ Fogg of Tiny Habits puts it. Motivation is it's that friend you go to the party with and they're the life of the party and you want to be with that friend because they're so cool. And everyone's talking about that friend, but that friend would never pick you up from the airport on time. And so I try to not rely on motivation. Instead, I try really hard to rely on habits that I built that help me get towards where I want. And I try really hard to keep in my mind's eye, like, why am I doing all of this? So if that's the question, like the why, what's your why? Like, why do you get up every day to work so hard? I believe that without Pilates, I would be in a different place. I would be an overworker, overachiever, working for someone else, unhappy, probably in a crap marriage, probably in a marriage that just kind of like ticked the boxes. Probably. I probably would struggle with my weight because my whole entire family did. And not in a way that like it's aesthetically, it's not like that. It's like health wise, like that would have been affecting my health in a negative way. And I would probably wake up, I'm 41, I'll be 42. And I probably would be waking up at 42 going, this life needs to change. Like I can tell you right now, because I was so disconnected from my brain and body,
Wow.
what I wanted, what I was good at, the strengths that I had. So when I did Pilates, I already told you the story. I heard my mind say, I don't want to live here anymore. So what motivates me is the more I do Pilates, the more I actually there are conversations with myself that come up, like little thoughts that come up that I've buried, that are my subconscious, like they can come up because there's nothing else going on and I can hear it. And the other thing that happened when I did Pilates is I actually felt what it's like to be in my body. And so what I realized, not in the moment that I did the first class, but looking back, is that I didn't feel like I belonged where I was. But I also realized I didn't feel like I belonged in high school. I didn't feel like I belonged in the town I grew up in. And there's nothing wrong with the town I grew up in, the high school I went to. I mean, there's some shitty people, but like that's every place, right?
Sure.
Nothing wrong, specifically inherently. It wasn't them. I didn't feel like I belonged because I didn't feel like I belonged in my own body. And so what Pilates allowed me to do is actually belong in my own body, to be in it. And what I found is if you don't connect to yourself, if you don't know who you are and what makes you strong and what you like and what you love, it's really hard to connect to other people. And so Pilates helped me connect to myself, which then helped me connect myself to the life I wanted to have. And then the people that are in it and the friends that I have and the husband that I have and I really do think that when people are connected to themselves, they can connect more to others. And that is the solution to world peace. So I've never been a pageant girl, but to me, what motivates me is the more bodies that do Pilates, the more people that are connected to themselves, the more people who are caring for themselves first, the nicer mankind is to everybody. And that's why I am on this mission. So that's what, in air quotes, motivates me.
Yeah. Impact.
Yeah.
And so given that motivation, how do you measure success?
Yeah. So, we used to measure success by members. and dollars, because that's what every business does. They have
Sure.
KPIs,
Easy
right?
metric. Yeah.
Easy metric. It's also depressing, and
Yeah.
you can lose sight of why you're doing
Yeah.
it.
The impact. Yeah.
Yeah. So we last year, my husband and I were like, okay, yes, we want thousands of members. Absolutely. But how do we change the focus to being on the maximum impact? Because not everyone that we impact will be a member. Not everyone that we impact will actually take Pilates from us or go like meet us in person. And that is okay, because the impact is more important. If we can get millions of people to do Pilates, like, yes, our business will benefit from that at some point, and also the world will benefit first, right? So we actually started tracking more KPIs that have to do with like how much reach certain things are getting. And so we're trying to go, okay, with the YouTube videos, yes, we do them because we hope someday people become a member, but are we reaching more people on YouTube than we did the month before? And last month we had 1 million viewers.
Awesome.
Fucking amazing. That's huge. I know that's not huge for YouTubers. That's huge for my channel, for out of all the videos we have, 1 million views. Like, that's freaking awesome. So, we're trying to incorporate those KPIs as the primary, and then going, okay, how is that affecting how the business runs itself, so that as a team, every person on the team can see how they are part of the bigger impact. Because our developers, not necessarily going to be like, they can take credit for members, right? They didn't market it, but what they do and how accessible and how the SEO works, that it makes sure that all these people see it. They're part of that impact goal.
Is it sliding, Lesley? Does the success change for you?
Doesn't it? I think it does. I think as you get older, what you need success to be should change.
Yeah.
When I was in my 20s, success was like making enough money to pay my bills.
Right.
And of course, like, I wanted to make more money than that, but like, it was all money because
Yes.
I needed it. And in my 30s, success was having control over my schedule. And now, as I'm in my 40s, success really is impact driven. And, in my 50s, it'll be different. I'm sure it will. So, and I think that I'm excited to see what that is, because I can't know now,
Right.
I don't know what I need.
You don't know what you don't know. I heard you say, and I heard this quote a long time ago, but you reminded me of it. What Daniel Pink said, if you can solve people's pain or help people, you're morally obligated to do it.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah. Isn't that powerful? Don't you wish you came up with that?
I know.
I do. I hope that Monday I get to meet Daniel Pink. Daniel, hi. I quote you all the time. Maybe I should put him on my list. I'm in an industry where there's a lot of push. So first of all, anyone who's in a service-based industry has a hard time charging for what they do, because they love it so much and they just want to do it. Right. And part of them is like, they get started doing whatever it is, and they'll just, whatever anyone wants to pay, they'll take. And then they get to a place where they're too busy because they're really good, because they're super passionate and they're really good. And now they have to raise their rates because they actually can't make any money off of what they're doing, and they're overworking themselves and underpaying themselves. And then they have a hard time charging for that. And then they go, no one will pay for that. Everyone's talking about how things are too expensive. No one will pay for that. And then it won't be accessible. And I think, like, because my industry is mostly women, I am a big proponent of, like, women need to make an income. And I don't care if your partner makes a ton of fucking money and you don't need to make any, and this is just fun for you. First of all, the other women around you who don't have that, they need you to charge a regular price so that they can. So just think about them. Second, you could donate all the fucking money.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you don't need it, you just love doing it, you can make yourself a donation goal and you can donate all of it. I have a girlfriend her entire business of her Pilates is to lose money and donate all of it so that they can change their tax bracket. Like, there are ways to have fun. Okay. So you can also, if you want to create accessibility, you can actually go to shelters and you can go to community centers and you could teach for free, because there's an actual big gap between people who can pay anything for fitness And, like it's an unfortunate thing in this world.
I
Like if you
see.
go to other countries, there are parks that are dedicated. They have fitness equipment. Anyone can work out for free. We don't have that usually in the
Right.
States. Every time you want to work out, you have to go pay for it. So
Interesting.
there are ways to make fitness and health more accessible. I think we can do that. Do we have to do that as one solo underpaid service worker? No.
Mm, mm,
Corporations could change that in an instant. So what I think is, if you focus on what problem do I solve? And then you ask yourself, when I solve this problem for someone, what does it do for their life? So if you solve back pain, and because of that, your client can now chase their children, jump on a trampoline, go hike a mountain with their family. Those are priceless experiences.
mm,
That shared experience with their family is priceless. You actually cannot put a price on it. It's impossible. So when you actually think about, they're not paying me for the 50 minutes they're with me. They're paying me for me to help them with the pain they're in so they can have a
mm,
different life.
mm,
That's what Daniel Pink was talking about. You have a moral obligation to sell it to them. And then for those of you who want to actually help the rest of the society who can't afford to pay for that, then take that, charge more, add $5 to every service, take that money and either pay someone else who can go into those areas and do it, or pay yourself to go into those areas and do it, or donate to a charity who's making that happen already.
mm,
Like
mm.
there are actual charities that are trying to make that happen that could use your money, your time, your service. And so I think that we have to, every single person needs to understand, like, what does your product or service do that's beyond the obvious? Get obsessed with that. Remind yourself of that. And then sell them a really good service product, follow through with it.
Hmm.
And then yes, be a generous person to other places. Absolutely. We should all do that. But I think, it's a disservice to people if you downsell yourself. If you don't talk about what you do and how you help people, like Daniel Pink says, like that's wrong.
Right.
You're keeping it from them. And so you do have to be as passionate as you can be. You do have to be your own hype person. You have to believe in you more than you might want to. But if you do help people, then Daniel Pink said you have a moral obligation to sell it to them. People place value on the things that they pay for.
I certainly
They
do.
really do. Now here's the deal. There are people, like for example, I could not pay for business coaching when I first started teaching. In fact, not even when I first started teaching. In 2013, when I got my own place after being in a long-term relationship, and I had been homeless for a few months, like I finally got my apartment, got a car. I could not afford to invest in any business coaching. And I knew I needed it because I had big plans for myself. So I was listening to business podcasts back in 2013 when people didn't even know what the podcast app was. I was like obsessed with them. I treated them like I paid for it.
Hmm.
That's a choice that I made. Not everyone does that. So yes, there are people who, it is possible to take free things and put value on them. Not most people don't have the time to even do that. So I think it's really important to note that just because you gave it away for free doesn't mean that they're going to value it, and they probably won't use it. If they pay for it, they do actually go, oh, I paid for this, I better use it.
Hmm.
And that is, we have to, sometimes it's part of the game to help people do the thing that they wanted to do.
Hmm. When I talk to businesses, I often have to kind of coach them away from talking about features and more about value. We see this in Nike. They're not selling sneakers, they're selling great athletes, they're selling great runners. And also your other point on experiences, as I get older, Lesley, I don't want gifts for any holidays, or I want experiences.
Yeah.
One of the greatest gifts my daughters gave me, which are now in their early 20s, they said, what can we give you? And I said, I want you to watch a movie with me that I know that you would never watch or you never heard of. It was one of the greatest couple of hours of my life. I picked Do the Right Thing, a movie from the 1989, and one of my favorite movies, and they loved it. And they would have never watched that. So I mean, the experiences are I don't know what I live for at this point. Lesley, I thank you so much for your time today. It's so wonderful. Next time I'm in the general Las Vegas area, I'd love to get a cup of tea with you and Mr. Lesley, and my
Yes.
friend would be
Yes.
great. Anybody listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So you can find, obviously, wherever you listen to this podcast, you can find mine, Be It Till You See It. So you can listen to what we have over there. If you want to get in touch with me, I love Instagram. You can DM me. It's just my name at Lesley.Logan. If you are interested in Pilates, you can find me there, and all my links I'll have take you to free classes or any of the stuff you want.
Lesley. Lesley
Yes.
Logan, as it sounds, .co is the website, by the way. A
Yes.
lot of stuff, you can kind of start from there. Like, you got a great Instagram. You got a lot of great posts. Lesley, thank you so much for your time.
Joe, this is great. Thanks for starting my Friday. You're my FYF now.
Ah! You be well.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypinz.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.